Well, with just about 19 games remaining in the regular season, the playoff hunt starts now for your Amarillo Wranglers as they welcome in the New Mexico Ice Wolves inside the Budweiser bullpen. Hello, Nick Lalpuis with you here. Thanks so much for joining us here on Facebook Live as we get ready to go. A big matchup between New Mexico and Amarillo. Again, playoff implications getting down to the nitty-gritty of the 2022-23 NAHL season. It was a big win Saturday night for Amarillo. They got the 2-0 shutout win over the Lone Star Brahmas. They're trying to carry that momentum into a big weekend against New Mexico, who dropped both games against Shreveport last weekend. So now 6 points separate Amarillo and New Mexico for that number 4 spot in the South Division. And the last 4 games between New Mexico and Amarillo have been split 2 apiece. So it should be a very exciting weekend here at the Budweiser bullpen, not only on the ice and in the standings, but also some specialty jerseys that we'll take a peek at in just a couple of minutes. And also pet night coming up tomorrow night, Pucks for Paws, Wings, Wags, and Whiskers. We'll have some great giveaways for some pet owners. So it's going to be a fun weekend, but let's take a look back at that big win Saturday night where Amarillo got a lot of momentum and that win over Lone Star, a Lone Star team that was only shut out 2 times before last Saturday, where Carter Clafton got the big shutout victory. As we take a look at some of those highlights, it was a power play that got a couple of goals last weekend. Simonovic right there got his 10th power play goal of the season. That opened up the scoring about halfway through the second period. It was back and forth, and eventually Amarillo able to break the ice first. A big night for the penalty kill. They went 5 for 5. Jack Ivey with that empty net goal late to give a 2-0 lead, and Carter Clafton, his second shutout of the season, picked up 27 saves on that 2-0 shutout victory against Lone Star. So Amarillo getting that big win, and it was a momentum-carrying win, as we heard a little bit during the coaches' show, that the team was very excited and very amped up after that win against Lone Star. So trying to bring that momentum in against a big weekend against New Mexico, trying to close that gap a little bit for the South Division standings. Zach By, Jonathan Barker joined me from 575 Pizzeria a couple days ago to talk about that big win against Lone Star. And when you have a goaltender playing like Carter Clafton, Luka Gons, how that kind of carries the confidence to the rest of the skaters out there on the team.
It's so fun. So fun. I mean, Saturday night win. Can't ask for much better than that, especially at home in front of that crowd. Yeah, I mean, we have such a tight-knit group. I mean, I've only been here for about a month, but I love the guys. They're awesome, so it's fun to be around with them.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. Like, beating a top team like Lone Star is always a good feeling. And, yeah, it was just great being around everyone. You know.
Clafton, he was lights out. He had that shutout. What does that do for the skaters on the ice when you start to realize, oh, hey, our goalie's in the zone right now? What does that kind of do? What kind of ripple effect does that have for the skaters on the ice?
You're just more confident. You can start making some more plays. I mean, he's a stud back there. He's going to Air Force for a reason. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you're just a little bit more willing to make an extra play. I mean, you're not as afraid to make a mistake because you know he's back there and he can make a save. Mm-hmm. The save he had in the third period was huge.
Yeah.
So just seeing that was unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
It was unreal. I mean, after that we were fired up. We kind of knew we had the game after that.
Yeah.
That was huge. So yeah, hats off to him. That was great.
Yeah, just like what Bark said, like having 2 goalies that are just like always really on the top of their game a lot, and just makes it a lot easier as a player to get.
So, again, always great to hear from those players during the 575 Coaches Show. Again, always join them out there at 575 on Civic Circle Drive. It's always a lot of fun, but you heard, obviously a lot of fun, very amped up after a big win like that, shutting down Lone Star. And, again, when you have a little bit of confidence from your netminder, see he's making big saves. You heard Barker talk about that big save Clafton made in the third period, and kind of everyone on the bench like, okay, we got this. So that's how big of a momentum shift it can be for a team when your goaltender's making big saves and is playing on fire like the Wranglers goaltenders have been playing in Carter Clafton and Luka Gons. So that big win last weekend, a couple of big points for Amarillo, and New Mexico dropping both games against Shreveport sets up a big weekend here at the Budweiser bullpen in terms of playoff standings, playoff implications. Oklahoma, well, they continue to pad their lead at the top of the division, at the top of the league. They've won 13 straight games now. Oklahoma has. They have 67 points on the season. Lone Star in second in that 27-10, 1-3 record. Shreveport jumping New Mexico in the standings by just a point with that sweep last weekend. That was in Albuquerque, by the way. And you see New Mexico now in the fourth spot. 24-16, 2-1 record, 51 points on the year, 6 points ahead of Amarillo. That could change all in a big way this weekend if the Wranglers can get a couple of big wins. And again, they still have 2 games in hand over New Mexico. So still lots of hockey to be played coming into this weekend, but Wranglers could do a lot of damage with a couple of big wins. You see Odessa, a couple of losses last weekend as Amarillo 5 points ahead of them, trying to build that cushion against an Odessa team that had been playing very well as of late. And you have El Paso and Corpus Christi kind of rounding things out there in the South Division, but a big weekend for Amarillo to try and pick up a couple of key points against New Mexico as they try and claw for that 4th and final playoff spot in the South Division. Okay, so not only do you have a big weekend on the ice and in the standings, but again, we got some specialty jerseys that will be auctioned off after the game tomorrow night. So take a quick peek at some of these jerseys. They are pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Black jerseys with the kind of silver, white W, the big W on the chest, and you have the kind of smaller ones all around the jersey. So those will be worn tonight and tomorrow, and will be auctioned off after the game tomorrow night. So you won't want to miss that. If you're coming out to the games this weekend, get to see those cool jerseys and stick around tomorrow night for the jersey auction after the game there at the Corral. We got the choir practicing. Again, going to be a great weekend as we take a look more now kind of toward the actual standings and the meetup on the ice. Take a look at some of those top scores. Wranglers are led by Pierce Patterson with 33 points, Chase Davis, Rihard Simonovich. On New Mexico side, Walt Howard, he grabbed the sole possession of the top scorer in New Mexico history. You also have J.D. Metz, Sully Sholey mixed in there as well, so a couple of big guns for New Mexico to keep an eye on as J.D. Metz, Sully Sholey, Will Howard, the captain of that New Mexico team. Again, a couple of weeks ago against Amarillo back in Albuquerque, Will Howard with the goal, and that ended up securing the most points by an Ice Wolf in their now 4-year history. And so those are a couple of the players you might want to look out for on the New Mexico side. Wranglers have a couple of great players there on the blue line, Simonovich and Patterson leading the way scoring-wise, and the Wranglers captain, Chase Davis, has been right toward the top as well. So it should be a great weekend as the Wranglers in the middle of 3 straight here at home taking on New Mexico. Big playoff implications coming up. We got some great stuff surrounding the games with the jerseys that will be worn tonight and tomorrow, be auctioned off after the game tomorrow night. And, of course, Pucks for Paws night tomorrow night. We'll have some dogs up for adoption. We'll have some giveaways for some pet owners courtesy of Wings, Wags, and Whiskers. So it will be a fun weekend. Coming up here in just a few hours, we will drop the puck here at the Budweiser Bullpen. I hope to see you here in the Civic Center, but if not, you can catch all the action on Hockey TV or on the Amarillo Wranglers Radio Network powered by Mixler. Thanks again so much for joining us here on Facebook Live. This is Nick Lalpuis saying so long, and we'll see you in just a few hours right here from the Budweiser Bullpen.